is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another edition of On the Road to Victory. I, of course, am your host, Jimmy Smith, and with me today is a very special guest, Eagles and 76ers beat reporter from NJ.com, also the No Huddle Show, Chris Franklin. How are you doing today, Chris?
Doing great, Jimmy, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's been a long day, a crazy day, but I was excited all day getting ready for this. I knew I had you coming on. I know you've been right there in the trenches getting to see it all. So I'm excited to have you on. I want to thank you for taking the time today.
Are you kidding me, man? It's always fun talking to you, and it's always good fun talking football. So I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, yeah, my man. And I want to thank everybody else for tuning in today as well. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, please let us know what you guys are thinking about camp. If you're freaking out about anything, you feeling good, let Chris know your thoughts, and we'll try to dissect everything that's going down here today. So, Chris, I hate to even start it off like this, but I'm the kind of guy that just wants to get the trash out of the way. Again, at midnight around last night, we get something thrown our way. Sean Watson, there's something brewing. It's all heating up. Here we go again. It's back. It's happening. Dear God, help us all. I think, Chris, we've talked about this the last time you were on, and this has been a possibility for a long time because the Eagles have a lot of draft capital. We're talking 10 picks in next year's draft, 2 first rounders, 2 seconds, maybe a first, doubt it, 3rd, 4th, 2 fifths, a 6th, and a 7th. That's 10 picks, baby. So you got yourself some draft capital. And then I think another big one is you just restructured Derek Barnett and Lane Johnson, gave yourself 4.041 extra in cap space. You got yourself a nice chunk of change in cap space. So what do you think is going to happen? Even Howie Roseman himself said it in a presser the other day. We're going to be included in every talk here. So I know you're the guy watching the quarterbacks at camp. So I want to know, what do you think of this Deshaun Watson? We'll get through this as quickly as we can. Sorry, Chris.
No worries. We're hearing it's like every day. It's like, hey, it's something new with Deshaun Watson. But when I first initially heard it, I was thinking, like, you know what? It's maybe a little smoke, but it felt weird. I know camp had started already, and teams are implementing their systems, and it just seemed weird that the timing of this came up. And to hear a couple other reporters refute it, saying that things are stagnant, basically concludes my initial thoughts. I don't think now is not the time to bring in a guy like Watson, especially with all those allegations that are out there against him. There's no finality out there. You don't know when he's going to be put on a commissioner's exempt list, because if it's converted to, if his goes to a grand jury and they indict him, you can't put him out there on the field, and you're going to get a lot of backlash from everybody in the community, a lot of people in the community. So I still, for life of me, this year would not be the time to bring him in. I think this is the year you see what you have in Hurts, and if it doesn't work out this year, then you look for the next offseason and trying to get into the quarterback.
I couldn't agree more. We all know what happened the last year because of the draft, and sure, whatever plans they had, is Jalen Hurts was just a cheap backup. But who cares? We're here. Carson's gone. I really feel the same way. You got to find out what we've got in Jalen Hurts. So, what other perfect person would there be other than Chris Franklin himself to have on the show? I know you've been watching these quarterbacks, been reading the articles, man. Great stuff. So why don't you let the people know what you've been seeing? I saw today in your article, you wrote, they had some wild drills to help these guys in the pocket. What are some of the things you're seeing from Jalen Hurts here? And maybe Joe Flacco, Nick Mullins, how are they helping Jalen Hurts come along?
Well, I think Hurts, for the most part, has had a decent camp. He's had his struggles at times when it comes to accuracy, when it comes to individual drills, and especially in 7-7 early on in camp, he has some issues. But as camps progressed, he seems to be getting more of a flow when it comes to the 7-7 and 11-on-11s. He still is the athletic quarterback that we all know. We saw him today. He stepped up pocket. Nothing was open down the field. He stepped up, ran up the right side, ran for 15 yards. He's good at extending the plays. He's getting better at stepping up in the pocket and remaining in the pocket. There's a play, I think it was a couple practices ago. He had nowhere to run. The pass rush was coming around. He stood in there and would have been hit if it was live. He would have taken a shot, but he was able to deliver a nice, accurate ball to Zach Ertz. He still has to work on consistently being accurate. We all know the intangibles. We all know the ship he's doing well. Flacco has I think he's going to be a decent if he's called upon. If something were to happen to Hurts, I think he's going to be more of a, like, say, a check down guy, a guy who's going to get it to the backs, get in the hands of backs and the tight ends, and keep the offense moving, taking what he gets. He's a veteran guy. He's seen a lot of offensive systems. He knows what he's doing back there. And Mahomes is a good developmental guy who he had his inconsistencies beginning. He started out hot, then he has some issues back to back practices with dropping fumbling the ball and making the wrong reads. But then he came back and he's looked great. He's been accurate. I mean, the throw he made earlier today to Rager is just it was good, accurate, and catch. And hopefully we talk about it later. But I think when you look at what you see that quarterback room, there's potential there. It's a matter of if Hurts is going to continue to build each day and be a better quarterback to the point where he's going to make that decision for the Eagles tough to keep him for the future.
I love it. And, one of the things, a recurring statement I keep hearing is stacking days, from all these players. And it seems like everything they're doing is really resonating with these guys. Like they're just hitting them with the same lines over and over, but it's real, 1% better every single day. And, you said it, you've seen it. He's working on the things, obviously he's very talented, Jalen Hurts. But we've been seeing the other quarterbacks help him out. I think Mullins, it was a no-brainer for me. Come in, help the guys in the preseason. It helps us see what we have with the back-end wide receivers rather than a rookie guy learning the league, the system. I just, obviously it's QB3. Going to have some issues, but upgrade from Nate Sudfeld, right?
Oh, gosh. After that last game against Washington last year, I think it's a rough – and he's coming back himself from that elbow surgery, and it looks like he's getting more and more comfortable. The one thing I wish he would take out of his game a little bit that is starting to become a tell is right before he throws the pass, you see him pat the ball and then release it. If I'm a defender, I'm going, oh, he's patting. I'm just breaking to wherever he's going. I wish he'd work that out. And maybe that's something he's going to work out a long ways. Is he's working some things, and when it comes to games, he gets that out of his system. But that's one thing I wish to see. But overall, just for the talent you have for a QB3, I think it's all right.
Chris with the eagle eye, watching the old pad of the ball. We're going to get you out there at linebacker, dude. We need some help. We'll get into that in a second.
Listen, I got one game in me, and as a QB, and you don't want me. It'll be look Gary-ish if I was back there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was like, look, I'm trying out a linebacker next. I got the hair. I don't got the size. So But dude, so you talk about, guys getting in the backfield. If it were live, maybe Hurts would have been feeling it. We've got to protect our quarterback. We know that. Now, apparently the defensive line's been doing pretty well. So I'm trying not to read too much into it. But I think the most intriguing thing is, we know what's going on the right side of the ball in the center. If those guys are healthy, we know that it's Kelsey, Brooks, and Lane over there. We feel good with that. But on the left side, it's been a really intriguing battle. And, look, Mailata, I think most people have him winning the battle, but I'm not so sure that Dillard has been as bad as I think a lot of people are making him out to be, because I've been getting some inside scoops about him, and it's a much more different tale than some of the stories I have read. So I really wanted to hear your thoughts on not only how Jordan Mailata has been doing, but how Andre Dillard has been doing and how you see this battle playing out.
Well, a lot of times I look at it, especially you look at the quarterback, I see where a lot of which way they're rolling out and how they have to escape. I've seen a lot of times when I've seen more times when Dillard's been in there that the quarterbacks have had to roll out to the right side, trying to escape that pressure. If I had to score today, if today's the deadline cut down day, I think Mailata has far and away done better than Dillard. And when you look at it as a whole and overall in the big picture, that's concerning. That's your seventh round draft pick just beat out a seventh round draft pick just beat out the first round draft pick. Ugh. I mean, and looking long term, I think Dillard is an athletic tackle. I think he does have ways to offer. He's getting back into the ways that made him that guy, that made him intrigued. But when you look at some things as his aggressiveness, when you look at his toughness at times, you just don't see it. He got bull rushed. I believe it was either Josh Sweat. It may have been Josh Sweat or Derek Barnett. One of them just straight up bull rushed him. And nobody's going to win every single snap, but to get bull rushed, to lose the outside hands and to get pushed back, my left tackle, I want to see somebody who's going to fight back and be angry in the next play, and didn't see it. So I think right now, I think it's Mailata's job at this point. It's Mailata's job to lose or injury if something was like that happen. But yeah, Dillard, It'll be a nice backup option. Maybe use him, move him on somewhere else, but it's my hands down.
Okay, great, because I feel the same way, Mailata. But what I wanted to hear was, is Dillard good enough that we can still? And I don't think this year I want to trade him. I want to have depth, and I want to feel comfortable because of what's happened. We were setting NFL records last year. So, do you think that Dillard's good enough that we could still be able to get value? Is really where I wanted to go with that. And that's just pretty much great to hear, because I love the fact that Mailata is impressing. And yeah, that is crazy that your first round pick. And I was hearing from Gabe from the Bro Barn. I had him on, and he was talking about what they've been saying about Dillard, and really athletic, added muscle. So he is getting better, but you just can't beat the monster that is Jordan Mailata right now, because he's just out of this world. They can't believe how far he's come.
Yeah, and when it comes to Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach, the one thing he really harps on is angles when it comes to his blocking, and it looks like Mailata has just been in tune with the angles that has happened. I mean, it could be possible that Dillard hasn't, since he missed last year with that biceps injury and being out for a season, he's still getting acclimated to those angles again, and it's taking him time to work. But fortunately for him, he doesn't have time, is not something that he has. And he has to turn it around very quickly. He's going to have to impress in these preseason games against other. I want to see how he does against the Steelers, not only Steelers, but I want to see how he does against the Patriots, that second preseason game, because we know the Patriots, when it comes to those edge rushers, well too. Steelers are good, but I really want to see what they do. Patriots do. That would be give him 2 games to prove, see if he's made progress, and go on from there.
Definitely. Great stuff there. And I'm going to be keyed in on those guys as well. And, I've seen in the comments here, talking about Mailata moving, maybe he could try swing tackle, but it's like, you've got guys like Jack Driscoll here. So I really just feel down the road he becomes trade bait. I'm just hoping he's good enough to get something in return. Now, I think one of the things that's definitely going to help this Eagles team is running the ball, something that I know we talked about last time you were on the show. We were excited about Kenny G in the building playing that Nyheim Hines role. Boston Scott getting a little bit of that too. 2 things here with the running backs for me. I want to get your thoughts on this. I feel that it's going to be one or the other when it comes down to Jordan Howard or Kerryon Johnson. I'm not sure if there's room for both of them, just because on the back end there, you're looking at Huntley, who apparently has been stepping up. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about him. Boston Scott apparently has been a big part of this offense. What are you thinking about the back end of this? How do you see this running back room playing out right now? And who's sticking out to you?
It's still one of the deepest positions on his team. I mean, there's a lot. I think Huntley to me is standing out. If I'll start with the first one. If it had to go with running back 3, I'm going if it's between Kerryon Johnson and Jordan Howard, I'm going Kerryon Johnson. There was concern about his knee, how he was going to be able to bounce back from there. I haven't seen it so far. And granted, there have been more practices without pads, and these guys haven't gotten a live hitting, but he's looked quick. He's looked agile. And the main thing that I've liked when comparing the two, his ability to catch the ball out the backfield. It just looks more clean, more smooth when he's been catching it on those swing routes. I mean, both of them have been working with Flacco a lot on that second team. And when you look at the pass routes that both Howard and Johnson run, Johnson to me is running just a little bit better pass routes. But when it comes to catching the ball cleanly, Kerryon Johnson's doing a much better job. Jordan Howard has had some issues with bobbles. He's caught it, but you see it's like he's fighting the ball, almost receiving the ball into his hands. So I would say between those two, I go Johnson. Boston Scott right now is RB2. He's been that good running the ball, like finding the holes in that zone running game and getting speed on the outside. I really see in the whole entire thing, if I was looking at a room, you may have 5 if, and I put this big caveat, if Jason Huntley is allowed to return kicks. Because this guy has been very fast on the edge. Every day, it looks like he's going, when they run that stretch play, especially to the right side, when they run that stretch play, he's making the speed, he's going to the outside, plants his foot, and he just goes up the sideline. He's having success with that. And in essence, if you use him on like a screen pass or a swing pass, all of a sudden you get a couple offensive linemen out in front of him, you got the wide receivers blocking in front of him, comes into like an impromptu kick return, and God knows what he's doing there. So if I had to go for Miles Sanders, Boston Scott's my RB2, I'll go Kerryon Johnson RB3, Gainwell 4, and Huntley if he's out. I mean, that Gainwell Huntley thing, if they may have to carry 5 just to protect him because somebody's going to claim one of them. I think somebody's going to claim Huntley. They see him as well he does during if he does well preseason.
That's awesome. I've heard Kerryon Johnson speak highly of him. He knew him, from Detroit as well. So hear you say that, I mean, it gets me excited because I get to read these things and it's like, and you get tiny glimpses of practice for a little bit. But look, I think I just said this yesterday in the show that those 4 you mentioned, and it's going to be hard from what I was reading from you guys that Jason Huntley maybe as a returner. I know that they're interested in putting Gainwell back there, even though he didn't do it in college, but if you're that good at something, and like you just said, you're running stretch plays, like you get in the open field, if a guy is just that quick, that good, it's hard not to keep him. So that's good, man. We have all been dying to be running the ball here in Philadelphia. So
you said the R word. That's a foreign concept. It seemed like it was a foreign concept at times the last few years.
Do you remember last time I had you on? I told you, I made a joke. I'm going to get run the ball tattooed on my forehead because I couldn't take it anymore, man. It was truly disturbing that we were, I think at one point, Miles Sanders was 3rd in the league, in yards per carry, and we were running the ball 35% of the time. It was beyond me. So I'm ready for this new coaching staff. I think they're definitely going to be running the ball a lot. So that's very exciting. Now, when we do get to pass the ball, we know that we have Devontae Smith. Now, there's been some up and down comments about the next guy we're going to talk about. But before we go up and down, let's take a gander at the catch he made today in training camp practice. Just, oh my God, that one-handed snag. And you said that was from Mullins, right?
Yep. Mullins threw a great job on the back pylon there, and he beat Slay on that.
Now, here we go. A little bit slower there. Look at him get that one hand on the ball. And, a lot of people feel in a certain way, but, we know that he's been going through some things off the field. And, you pray that everything gets worked out for him and hope that, he gets mentally right. What are you seeing from Jalen Reagor? Are you excited? I'm still very excited for him. I think adding Devontae Smith into this room is awesome. So what do you think about our, you could throw in the top 2 wide receivers if you want. How are you feeling about Reagor and Smith?
If it works out, it's going to work. If Reagor it's consistency with Reagor. There are times, I mean, one thing that we saw that catch that he just made right after that, he made a great move on a cornerback, was running along the back line, had 2 hands on the ball and dropped the ball, an easy what would have been an easy touchdown. That's the thing with him is consistency. He has talent. He has speed. He has hands, unlike that drop he shown as well too. It's a matter of him putting together and stop and to line up correctly as well too. I mean, there's been a lot made of him being yelled at. Nick Sirianni yelling at him, and Kevin Patullo, the passing game coordinator, yelling at him as well too. He has to. I don't know if it's a focus thing. I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, granted, he's got a lot going on. It's tough when you lose somebody close to you like that. But if he can consistently play well, he's going to be matched up one-on-one. He could potentially see a lot more one-on-one coverage if everybody starts shading the defenses more towards Smith's side. So he has it in him to be good. Can he put it together game in and game out? That's what I think everybody's waiting to see. And if not, then you start having little questions down the line. But it might be tough. Well, I mean, because he may have some competition coming up from the other wide receivers in that room.
And yeah, we're going to get right into that in a second here. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on them because exactly, there is some competition here. But I think the one guy that's making everyone better, very unfortunate that he had that minor knee sprain there. But what did you see when you did see from Devontae Smith?
I liked, for a guy who was only a couple practices in, I like the way he sets up the cornerbacks to make his routes. A lot of times you see it takes some time to develop that ability. It's like every motion he has a purpose with it. If he wants to move on toward the inside, he'll make sure that he not only aligns himself and gives him enough space away from the sideline to make that quick break inside. He can read the ability where the cornerbacks are going, and he's fluid with his breaks in and out and his hands and his speed and quickness. So you saw all the elements that were there that warranted the team trading up to get him at the 10th pick. And when he comes back, the only thing I'm concerned about him doing, he's taking a lot of mental reps. I mean, saw him, he's talking with Aaron Moorhead, like talking over what had happened in practice. He's carrying one of the play scripts around with him, seeing what's going on. So he's staying in tune, getting those mental reps. But there's a difference between mental reps and actually physically getting them and getting adjusted to the game speed. I mean, he's played SEC, which is pretty close to the NFL you can get, but it's not the NFL. So I want these snaps here are going to impact him a little bit. Just set him back. I don't think the injury's not going to be serious. I don't think it's going to be something that lingers and lingers and lingers. But there is hope when it comes to him and the potential he has when he gets on the field.
I agree with you. And yeah, it's unfortunate. And you don't ever want to see your first round pick get hurt in any way, shape, or form and miss this time that's very important to him. But like you said, for anybody that could come along and be okay with missing time, it's, he looks pretty good. But I think the silver lining here is, for me, these back end guys you're talking about, we get to see a lot more and they get the opportunity to show what they've got. And man, let me tell you, I'm excited about a lot of these guys. They have a lot of promise, but there's a lot of huge question marks over these guys. So who is standing out to you? I know there's a random name there, Hakeem Butler. I know that you guys said that he's been playing a lot of wide receiver. Somebody's getting rowdy down there. Too fast, too furious.
It's an empty office park, and somebody's thinking it's a fun raceway office.
Oh my God!
Sorry about that. Jeez.
No, you're good. At first I was like, "What the hell?"
Mullica Hill, Need for Speed. Oh
yeah, how about it? Somebody just got done watching Fast and the Furious 9. They're fighting T-Rex. Who knows what's happening anymore? But all right. I'll try to bring it back to you. The wide receivers, the back end guys. I know you said he's going to have some competition. So who's standing out to you? Who's kind of falling off the earth here? How many do you think we're keeping? Who's 3? Who's 4? I mean, a lot to talk about here. So I'd definitely love to hear your thoughts, Chris.
I still think Fulgham and Ward are 3A and 3B. I mean, Ward still is Ward had a nice catch today. I like what he did. Caught from Flacco on a play action pass. Ward had a very nice catch, and I think Fulgham is starting to round into shape. I think he's more focused, and he even said so yesterday when we had a chance to talk to him. He's been using every rep. He said he's become a better practice player, and that was one of the reasons Doug Peterson said he was a little concerned that toward the end of the season with him or not getting on that field. So he's getting better in that aspect. For me, I'm really high on Quez Watkins. He's a guy who wasn't able to participate early on in camp last season because of injuries, and he came on in the last 4 games of the year. And we saw that game against the Arizona Cardinals, that catch and that quick turn that he made and run to the end zone for a touchdown. I think it was like 32 yards, something like that. He's great. And so far in camp, he's shown that explosiveness once again. He's always been fast. And one thing that you want to see, like, you don't want to become a guy who's just known, like, and not to disparage Top Hinkson, but you don't want to be like Top Hinkson where you think like it's a 9 route. That's the only thing he's going to do. He's trying to round out his game. So he's going to do the crossing routes. So he can do the post routes and everything else like that. And he's shown, like, I've seen, just looking back at some of the later games, especially like the Dallas game, stuff like that, when you see the types of route he runs and versus the crispness of the routes he's running now, it's night and day. He looks really good running the routes, and I like what I've seen of him. Hightower, to me, just like his Rager, is inconsistent, but the difference is at least Rager was a first-round pick, so he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. When you're Hightower and you're a day 3 guy and you had issues last year and you weren't really known for your special teams ability, you wonder now. You don't have that automatic in. There's times when Nick Sirianni, because of one of the middle days in practices last week, he ran a good route. Sirianni ran over, said, great job. A couple of routes later, you're seeing them like having to be coached up completely because it was the same route and it was off, and it threw the timing off for the play and it was incomplete. So he's a guy that he needs to focus. He needs to consistently catch the deep ball. I mean, it's tough. Like, I'm not talking about like I'm going to go be out there trying to catch things out, but he has the ability, but he has to consistently do it, and he hasn't been. So I'm worried about him as well too. And J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is he can talk. He's talking a good game, saying he's doing the things that he needs to do, but looking back now with Fulgham being on the roster, who's filling the role that he should be doing, I personally think this might be it for him.
I agree, and I see a lot of people jumping back on, and that's great. I want to see everybody accomplish greatness on this team, and obviously some people aren't, and they're going to be cut. And I agree. I don't know if he's that guy that makes the team because Travis Fulgham, you heard it from him, right? Well, I don't know why I didn't get Alshon Jeffrey came back, and that was his spot. And it's like we've talked, everybody's been talking about that was the reason, and now it just pisses you off more. It's like what? So he was balling.
And the thing with JJ Arcega-Whiteside is falling right into the same trap that the last year and the year before that. He makes some really good plays in camp, and you're thinking, okay, this is where he's finally turning the corner. And you start to like, you know what? Okay, he's ready to turn the corner, and then he'll disappear. I just feel like we're watching the same movie over again, where he's making some plays during camp, making some nice catches, stuff diving ones and ones in. Which is being tightly covered. And then it's going to be a letdown later on. You're looking like, wow, this guy has all this talent. Where is he? Why can't he get open again? And that's what I think we're going down that road again. I really do.
I do too. And I mean, and I try not, I'm not judging these guys or anything like that, but just reading his body language, seeing him talk yesterday, like, he's just really standoffish and seems real scared. And it's like, look, I'm not saying wide receivers are the toughest dudes in the world because I was one and they're not. I'll be real with you, mostly prima donnas, but it's like you can't be out here, I just don't know, man. I feel like he's just got something, and I hope him, I wish nothing but the best for the kid, and I hope
that was the most open I've seen him since he's been there. It just seemed like he was being open and honest, and I think he knows that this is one of his last chances.
It was like he came out and he was like real, like, and then all of a sudden, like you just said, he started opening up, and I think he finally let us know what was going on with him, and that was a good first step for him, to really resonate with us, because he said, I sat back, I really just tried to take a look at what was going on, and it's like, well, that's what you need to do. So best of luck, but I'm in the same boat with you. I think that Fulgham and guys like that are going to beat you out. And dude, what you said with the 3A, 3B, dude, that's perfect, because Ward and Fulgham, that these receivers are interchangeable. So, I mean, you're going to move these guys around. It's just really going to be about who has more snaps, I think. I don't care who you call the starter, So I'm excited for the receivers, and having Sirianni being so hands-on with these guys and Moorhead being back. I'm pumped about that. Now, we may not have the most exciting wide receiver group to some people. I think it's a lot of promise there, but, of course, big questions. There is a question here of if Zach Ertz is going to be here. So before we even get into the depth, I mean, what are your thoughts there? We know that, Zach Ertz, I mean, the thing is, if we were going to save the money, which we can save some money, he's got a 12.7 cap hit, but we could actually save 8.5 if you trade or release him. That's been the talk, but he's been here. Now, he also would get fined $40,000 if he wasn't here every single day. So is this kind of like is he putting on a show before he leaves? Do you think that Zach Ertz is actually going to stay here? What's your thoughts, at least just on Zach Ertz for now?
I really think he's buying in. I really think he may, barring an injury to a contender at the tight end position, I think he remains. I mean, if he was coming to practice, working on drug machine, standing off to the side and running inside, or not even coming out at all, but being in the facility, then I'd say, oh, he's out, he's gone, he's moving on, he's done. But to stay after practice, getting extra work, standing around Jalen Hurts and talking and working out. During that medicine ball drill, they were doing medicine ball dodgeball drill, which was kind of funny to watch, to see him moving around there. He was the receiver that was there with the quarterbacks, catching the ball and talking to them, and it's like the sharing and trying to build that chemistry. If that didn't, to me, that just seems like a guy who's willing to stay at least one more year. I think he's going to stay here and begin the season, unless, say, I don't know who's going to. Say one of the top AFC teams or top AFC teams. See, I don't want to tell you the Bills.
Merrill Reese, everybody goes.
Yeah, that one. Oh, that took off. It's like he even is like, I was reading the report I saw.
I heard what he said. Yeah, he didn't even say it was definitely happening. It's like, oh god, people are nuts.
Yeah, but even the Bills, I'm still have my questions about. But if he went to another contender, if a contender suffered an injury and they needed him, or the Eagles were 1-6, and they were starting to field calls, looking to really, really offload some people before the trade deadline, then I can see him moving. But otherwise, I think he's here.
I like it, and I've been talking about this last couple of weeks. Like, holy crap, it's been 8 days of training camp. He's been here. He's been looking good. So, it's not just that he's there. You said it. He's putting in the extra work. It's like, oh crap. Like if he actually, and he obviously was out 5 games. He had some injury issues last year, but if he's back healthy, he actually mentally wants to be here, which it kind of seems that way. I'm all aboard that train. That'll definitely help. Jalen Hurts having, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. Holy, that's a nice 1-2 punch. But that Nick Sirianni likes to use his tight ends. So beyond those two, how are you seeing this room play out? Because I've heard nice talk about Tyree Jackson. Jason Kroom's kind of been dealing with an injury. I'm intrigued by the undrafted kid, Jack Stoll. Richard Rodgers brought back in the offseason. So a lot of question marks here for me at tight end. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's been going down at the tight end room.
Well, Flacco's one guy. It helps when another quarterback says that he's been amazing. That's Tyree Jackson. I mean, you look at this guy's size, and he's 6'7", he's like 240 something, and he works the middle of the field. Him and Flacco have gotten that connection already going. And to see when you have a guy that size who's able to move around and who has a size mismatch on a lot of linebackers and defensive backs, it's intriguing. Rodgers, we know he's a veteran guy who knows how to run routes, who knows how to catch the ball. So you see that. Stoll may be used in another way, and don't want game plan stuff away, but Stoll may be used as well and differently, and he's still catching the ball very well. So I think Stoll has some value.
Nice.
A lot of us stick around, and we'll see him probably on special teams too. And I keep bringing up special teams because that's how a lot of these guys make the team when it comes to that. It's going to be tough. I mean, that's one of the toughest. Like even if I was doing a roster projection, you're not keeping 5 tight ends at all. You're not keeping 5 tight ends. The problem they're going to have is if they cut Tyree Jackson, they may be facing a Noah Togiai situation all over again. Togiai, the tight end last year who got picked up by the Colts. They try to waive him, sneak him on the practice squad. Colts picked him up. I think the same thing, if they try to cut Jackson, the same thing is going to happen. Now, if he cannot block, if he shows that he's even an average blocker, I think he stays 3. Personally, if I'm them, as of right now, and it's not slagging Richard Rodgers, I'm keeping Tyree Jackson as my tight end 3 or 4. Stoll as the other guy 3 or 4. It's just that room's it's tough. I mean, Kroom, Wilson, and Butler's a wide receiver again now, but Kroom and Wilson, I think they won't be on the roster when everything's said and done.
I think people will feel that I just have you on this show to back up what I try to say. Dude, I seriously, I couldn't agree more. I think, Tyree Jackson, from what I've read from you, Mike K, just really exciting. I had my buddy Gail from 4th and John on before camp, and he brought him up, like, having that size. Maybe he's that Logan Thomas converted quarterback to tight end. And sure enough, he's popping off now. But you look at it, you said it, we're not keeping 5 tight ends, you shitting. And you won't say it, but I will. When we signed Jack Stoll, I was excited for, maybe an H-back role. We're going to see a lot of different things on offense, defense, things where, he's got those soft hands. Like you said, he can block. He's not an inline blocker, but he can block. So there's things you could use with that kid. So I love where your head's at. He could definitely make this roster. But how the hell do you justify getting rid of a Tyree Jackson if he's balling out, if he does it in preseason? I mean, we all know it's just training camp, so we're not overdoing it here. We're just saying, if he continues to show out, how do you say to yourself, all right, let's cut this guy and let's keep Richard Rodgers at the age of 97? So I think that I like Richard Rodgers. I do. I really, really do. But I think for me, it was easier when I thought Zach Ertz was gone, because then I was like, all right, you just Rodgers, you're second. You got Tyree and Stoll. They all do different things. But now it's, okay, if Ertz is here, well, darn. So, yeah, I love where your head's at, though, man. This is going to be a fun competition. And you said about, doing a roster projection. I'm working on it because at the end of camp, I'm going to, have my projected 53. And I'm like, son of a bitch. But you're so right, man. It all comes down to, what do these guys look like on special teams?
It's tough. You look at and then you still forget you have defense. You got guys that you want to see what they can do on that aspect. There's, I it looks like they loaded up on a bunch of the guys who play a similar style or a different bunch of styles, and then trying to see weed the things out and see what works from there on out. But other than that, it is rough.
Yeah. I hear you. Rough to be there, huh? One day I'm just gonna have you hide me, and we're gonna get in there. Now, dude, the offense, I know you've been pumped about, but I've been seeing a lot of good things from the defense, and that is really promising to me because I'm not too concerned. I mean, yeah, the offense is gonna have growing pains, but the defense is what, we had picket fences out there last year and things that make me want to put my head through a wall. So we know it all begins in the trenches. So having a pass rush, we did just that. Now at the front of it's Derek Barnett. What's going on there? Everybody's questioning. This is a new coaching staff. Nobody has to start, So I wanted to know what your thoughts are on a guy like Kerrigan brought in. Do you see who's the starter here, and does it really matter? I mean, is it really just about getting that rotation right? How did you see this defensive end rotation going, and how do you see it playing out week one?
Well, the thing's going to be is what even front they're going to show. I mean, they've been playing some 3-4 as well as some 4-3, which is interesting in itself. But it opens up the window, saying it makes sense to have the Ryan Kerrigan signing if you got guys used to playing 3-4. But overall, Sweat's been having an amazing training camp, and he's added a couple new moves, like pass rush moves. I saw that one little nuanced move that I didn't see last year, but he's looking good. He's being disruptive. He's forcing a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. And I've seen that for sure. And you've seen, I think he even had a strip sack as well too. He had one of those. So Sweat is playing well. And for Barnett, he's actually having a pretty decent camp too, but not to the level that Sweat has been going. So if I had to go right now, just based on performance in itself, I think Sweat would be the DN2 lining up across from Brandon Graham. But once again, depends what type of front they're in. If they're going 3-4, do you go? I can see him being a stand-up guy as well too. I mean, they're rotating. They're showing a lot of different looks across the front. A lot of different looks.
I'm ready to just go to heaven right now, man. I'm floating on cloud nine. I love it. We talked about the possibility. A lot of people try to simplify when we signed or hired Jonathan Gannon, and one of the things I pushed was the narrative that look at the guys we're drafting. Some of these guys, Milton Williams, Jacoby Stevens. I think obviously coming up here, we're going to talk about some stand-up rushers listed as linebackers, but really outside linebackers that are guys that can hand in the dirt, standing up, dropping coverage, pass rush. It's a lot coming at you. And I think a lot what I heard was the defense and the offense, they're putting guys in precarious positions. They're not just giving them places where they're going to shine. They want to see how they do because you just said there's so many different fronts, and this is just a training camp. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. But there's some of these guys. So the back end, some of these defensive end guys, and we'll get into the linebackers too, because I know they have guys listed weird and everything, but some of the guys in the back end, I saw that Joe Osman was actually one of those guys that was a stand-up rusher at outside linebacker. Matt Leo has been dealing with COVID, we know. Well, he's on the list. I don't know what he's going through. But Jaquan Bailey, I think at one point he had a strip sack maybe. And then Teron Jackson, somebody I really liked. And I remember talking with you about how is Teron and everybody else been looking at the back end there?
Yeah, Leo is unfortunately he still hasn't been on the field yet because he's still on the COVID-19 list. Bailey has had his moments, but it's been out of those four, I like Teron Jackson a lot. I mean, he's a quick guy. He's a proven pass rusher at the collegiate level when he's at Coastal Carolina. It's just like a lot of guys. You can have athleticism, but when it comes to athleticism and knowing how to get to the quarterback and consistently doing that, he's a guy that has played very well and knows how to get to the quarterback. I like that. Usman's been done a lot of stand-up rushing, which has been weird to see in itself. Like as a stand-up guy, it's like, wait, I'm so used to seeing him as like the wide 9. Now you see him rushing with like closer to a 7 technique and standing inside. It's like, this is awkward, but yeah, it makes sense because he's the way they're playing it in a 3-4 and also that 4-3, and you don't see that big gap now going for the outside. Wow. But Teron Jackson to me has been the standout on those four, and they got. I mean, when they took him, I thought they got a lot of value when they took him that league. I think it's sixth round, fifth or sixth
Yes.
round, but they got a lot of value. So he's looks like he's rewarding them with that faith.
I love it. And yeah, we had like 3 picks in that 6th round. I loved all of them. And I thought, yeah, it was huge to get him. And then we'll get into another one in a second here, but let's go to the middle here. And you said it, it really depends on what front we're running here. But we've got some defensive tackles, and we know from back in the day, Fletcher Cox can play at the defensive end in the 3-4. He can move around the line. But there's a young man we added that can also do that now. So pretty much solidified Cox and Hargrave as your 1 and 2. But beyond that, this is actually a very intriguing battle to me because I loved the Marlon Tuipulotu draft pick, but I really liked what Ridgeway and T.Y. McGill brought last year. I would love to hear what's been going down with this battle for the defensive tackle depth.
From what I've seen, I like Ridgeway. To me is solidifying himself as 3. He's a veteran. He's a veteran now. He gets a good push up the middle. So to me, Ridgeway's that one. Williams is my favorite out of the 5, just because of his positional flexibility. He's strong when they do go that 3-4. Having him be that defensive end and line up against the guard and a tackle and getting a push from the outside while letting another defensive end come from do a pass rush and it frees him just basically 1-on-1. He is the one that I really think he can excel in a hybrid system like this. Tuipulotu, from what I've seen, it hasn't been that impressive to this point, which is kind of I'm a little shocked at, because he even said himself, I was listening to an interview he did on Sirius XM, he even said himself that this defense was very similar to the one he ran at USC. Maybe that changes with the pads. You hope, but he hasn't been that. T.Y. McGill is still a nice addition, and all of a sudden now with him playing 3-4 a little bit more, that 3-4 fits Raekwon Williams a lot more as a nose tackle. And he's a big guy. I think it's like 307 pounds or something like that. He's a big guy in the middle and occupies stuff. But given that you have Williams that can play D tackle, and given that you have Ridgeway, and I think McGill's ahead of him too, Williams might be out on the outside looking in as well.
Yeah, it'd be intriguing to see if we can land him on the practice squad again, because I've heard decent things about him where maybe he'd get an opportunity. You always see our defensive tackles on everybody else's teams. Like, there's Huggins, there's Rush. But then again, that's because we have so many effing injuries that we're signing 300 defensive tackles. So now we've hit the defensive line, but still, we've talked about this. Some of these guys are going to be used maybe on the line, standing up near the line, dropping out of coverage off the line. There is a lot of fun to be had, and we've only got a tiny sample size, but there is also just a log jam at this position as a whole. So, dude, you're going to get hit in the face with a picture of a lot of people, and I just bear with me, and I thank you, Chris, but what are you seeing from this linebacker room? I know Alex Singleton is just about to come back. Looks like he finally got his test right, but still hasn't practiced. Eric Wilson looks like a great leader, but we saw Davian Taylor was hurt. Jacoby Stevens, both of them week to week. Son of a... And then you got Avery, who moved there. He can do all kinds of stuff in the dirt, standing up. And then Patrick Johnson, I thought that was what was telling to me. When we drafted him, oh my, could we have a hybrid defense, a guy that stands up? Because he was predominantly on the defensive line with his hand in the dirt, but he can stand up, and that's what he's doing here. So, Chris, you see all these guys. How do you see this linebacker room playing out? Who do you see not making the team? What are your thoughts?
I think, Smith, I would have said Jackson and Smith. I have him as the odd man out, but I think given Johnson is really thinks looking all right, has looked all right. He hasn't truly flashed, but he's been steady enough, and I like that. One thing I like about Wilson that I've seen, and it's not so much on the field, but it's off the field. He spent a lot of time working with Jordan Mailata, and they've been sitting on the work field. Practice is over. They're on on the field still after it's about. We're still doing our interviews, and then you see, and in between, you're looking around, like, what's going on over there? And you see Wilson's working with Mailata when it comes to like the pass sets. Then you see him working on a jugs machine with some other guys as well too. So I like what I've seen not only on the field with him performing, but more when it comes to that leadership and the intangible wise when it comes to Wilson. Bradley's gotten some run lately, and Edwards had an interception. I thought he did a great job reading the quarterback size, dropping back and picking people off. And he looks a little bit better. Granted, in coverage, I'm not saying he's your nickel guy, because I think there's some other options like Singleton. I think is a better option on there, but I feel a little bit more comfortable if I'm the Eagles. I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable seeing how he can move about, and potentially be in a zone man to man. I'm not not there quite yet. The Stevens injury, that when it comes to Stevens, he needs every rep. He's intriguing because even he got a pick in camp, and I like the way he can drop back. I envision him like playing in a Tampa 2 type style where he just drops back into that zone, and with his experience being a safety, he knows how to read the ball, can break on the ball, and if it's like 3rd and long, I'd rather him be out there than having like a true linebacker. And I take the chance they run a draw play. Personally, I leave him in the middle if he develops in over time and gets that thing. But overall, looking at the line, they're a very athletic crew. They're showing that so far in camp, and especially with as much as the as the offense has been checking down to the tight ends and the running backs a lot. They've been right there, giant spot, and actually been covering pretty well. And they basically, and especially in that zone, I think they've been all right.
Nice. And I like what you said there about Stevens playing that role. I remember you were on with Gail and Evan over there at 4th and John, and I got to ask you a question, and you talked about Davian Taylor and Jacoby Stevens. Well, you were actually in the midst of talking about Davian Taylor, and I had mentioned, could you see Stevens? And 2 guys that I know we're both very intrigued by. So it's unfortunate to see them week to week, and hopefully they get back soon, because this is prime time to find out if they could be those nickel linebackers that can drop in coverage and help us with that athleticism in a Tampa 2 short. Because we're going to see multiple fronts, multiple schemes. Jonathan Gannon's bringing that heat. Don't worry, we'll get that. And I'm trying to fly through this, Chris.
Good, man. You're good,
now,
man. You're good.
We've got up next after the linebackers, the cornerback position. I know when I had you on, we talked about Steve Nelson. God. So months later, after I have you on, it was literally 125 days that I talked about Steve Nelson. I can't believe it took that long, but how we actually, when you were on, we talked about patience. I know that there was no rush, but damn, were we cutting it close, but excited I am. How are you feeling about Slay and Nelson before we get into the other corners?
Nelson's still working his way back into and playing ways, because this documented he got beat a couple times on some deep balls, and when you're haven't played that well and you're still learning the system, thinking things through, that's going to happen. You're hoping that he progresses. In theory, if he plays up to his level, I think that eases up a lot. I think it opens up a lot more things, and it gives you a steady, at least a solid pairing. I mean, Slay, I've got no worries about Slay. When Nelson, if you have a guy who's a veteran who can at least hold his own, cool with that, because that's going to give you an extra second when it comes to pass rush. And given that the depth, the 2 layers that they have, the 2 levels of pass rushing guys they have, the 2 groups, that's all you need in some aspects, or at least to be at least disruptive, to get an extra second. So I think the 2 of them overall good, but he has to work himself back into his right playing form, because early on it's been a little rough.
I have seen he's had some struggles, and that's why it's like, okay, we can wait, but let's not wait too long, guys. Let's give him some chance. And whatever he was doing before he got signed, who knows? But glad that he is here. We talk about, like you said, that extra second. I think it's, huge that Avonte Maddox is not outside. He can go inside where he's much better there. But it allows Zach McPherson not to be thrown into the fire. And I've been hearing a lot of great things about him. I'm very excited about Zach McPherson. So the back end of these corners, we've been seeing Avonte at nickel, and we've been seeing that Steve Nelson is pretty much teaching up Zach McPherson behind him. But I think, this is kind of something we talked about when we signed Zach. Got to teach him one at a time. But I think through time, he has played inside and out. He can play man and zone. I think this kid's going to be multi-talented, could possibly steal that job eventually inside. But how are you seeing these corners? Because we got rid of a couple, Shaquille Taylor and Nate Meters, so it's a little more open. Graylin Arnold, a defensive back that can help at nickel. But how do you see this cornerback room, Chris? Because there's still a lot of questions.
When it comes to I've liked what McPherson has done so far on the outside. I mean, he seems like he's finding the ball everywhere he's going. Like he's been pass breakups, he's picking balls off. I like what I've seen there. I think Avante Maddox has looked a lot better inside than he did on the outside. I mean, he seems more comfortable inside as a nickel guy. So I've seen that. Craig James has had his moments. Graylin Arnold's actually has had his moments as well too, playing a little well in the back end. Jaquette, he's been called like what they've had the official. Sean Hockley's crew has been out there this last few practices, and they've given some reps and helping everybody out get used to what's officiating points of emphasis. Jaquette's been called for a couple penalties, and one of them was a hold on Jackson in the corner. And to me, Jaquette, I had high hopes for Jaquette. I really thought he could be a guy that a bigger corner can be somebody's physical, given that the size of these wide receivers that they're out there in not only in division, but seems to be on the Eagle schedule this year. I thought he could be a guy who could round in the form, bounce back from that Cowboys game of last year and be good. And they take another step, but it was like he's struggling at times. And he's physical. Given that's what happens when you're physical, you can call penalties, but it just seems like they come at the most inopportune times, and you've seen it a couple times. I'm like, a little bit there. Craig James has shown some flashes at times too, but I like Maddox. If they go there, Maddox is, I think, your primary nickel guy. McPherson, I can see as a dime guy. I mean, maybe you put him on. I know he's more better as an outside guy than an inside guy. Josiah Scott had shown some moments as well too, playing on the inside that slot as a nickel guy when he was with the second. I thought he did all right. So it's a tough decision to make toward the bottom of that roster. And I'll just leave it at that. It's a tough decision to make on that one too when it comes there.
I like what you said there, though, and that was the concern before, though. It's like, oh, we have nickel corners that I like, Avante Maddox. You know that you just said Josiah Scott. I was intrigued to see what he did this camp, so it's nice to hear good things about him. But Zach McPherson, you said it, like, let's train him outside, but let's give him time to learn. So I agree with you. He'll be that fourth guy that can come in, and that's not to say he's not going to get a healthy amount of snaps, because you see how the league is changing, what division we're in with the receivers they have. So great points there, Chris. And I think, maybe we keep 5 of them there, and Josiah Scott, very intriguing. Avante Maddox, you can move all of them around. So love it. But still young and very questionable. But I think when we talk about Steve Nelson, we're not trying to say like, oh, that move gives us the Super Bowl. It allows us to get through another year. And I think next year, if Hurts is great, which I think he will be, you use those picks and get yourself a corner, a linebacker, and we don't have to have this conversation next year, Chris.
To me, that's the move. If Hurts winds up doing it, I think maybe depending on where you are, say if you're picking 13, 14, probably 10, 11, I'll be honest, because I think they were winning 7 wins this year. And then you have the Dolphins pick, which is probably going to be in late teens, early 20s. Package them up, and if there's a cornerback that's projected to go top 5, maybe you use those picks and maybe give them a 2023 day 2 pick or whatever to move up. I think that might be your play there, but it all rests on the performance of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much that goes into that. And let's play it out, because we got lots of draft picks. And I agree with you, Chris. You could definitely bolster this defense in some holes that we just seem to ignore all the time. Now, this position I feel pretty good about if Rodney McLeod is healthy, and he says he's going to be, but right now he's on the PUP list. We'll see if he starts the year, what happens there. But I want to know, because what's great is I love the signing of Anthony Harris, not just because of the money and all that, but a great player, seems like a great leader who's been helping people. I'd love to hear what you've seen from Anthony Harris. And do you see him in the beginning of the year? If Rodney McLeod is not healthy, do you see Anthony Harris as the strong safety, Marcus Epps as the free safety? Or do you see Anthony Harris as the free safety with Kayvon as the strong safety?
I think Kayvon's played as well to become this in that scenario. I think Kayvon would be the strong safety, because I think he's played decently enough. And I look at him more as a guy who's a box guy. And then that allows Harris to move back up and play that center fielder if they want to go cover 3 or help out in that cover 2 on the half. But we actually talked to Harris today, and I get the sense that he's embracing that veteran role a little bit more. He's a guy. There's no question about his talent. I like the way how he's a ball hawk. I like the way that he reads the quarterback eyes. Just looking, when I had a chance to look at some of the film this past year, like this past offseason, and just trying to get acclimated with some of these guys to see it. I like the way how he reads he baits the quarterback a lot, and you see it because they may a lot of quarterbacks just look at the safety and just have him try to hold him and then go the last way, but he baits him. He'll shade around. He does his finger film prep, so he'll start shading around the one way, so quarterback starts to look straight and think plays off, and then he'll dart the opposite direction. Next thing you know, you see him with a pass breakup or something, or an interception at times. But I like what game he plays. And we saw McLeod, going back to McLeod, we saw him running doing some jogging and drills today on the side field because he's I didn't see it. He was wrapped. The leg was wrapped. I'm not sure he had the brace on it or not, but his leg was still heavily wrapped. But he was moving around with the trainers and trying to get ready, trying to get set to be ready for that September 12th game. So if he's not available by then, I'd probably put Kayvon Wallace as that strong safety and let him roll with that.
I like it. And I actually, who was it? I was watching a presser yesterday, maybe Jonathan Gannon, and they were saying that they were actually impressed with Kayvon and actually dropping him back a little bit more, trying to give him just in case he does have to be a starter. So that seems like they do have that confidence in him that you're talking about. And Anthony Harris, he just kind of gives you the ability to allow guys to come in and do that. And we just want to see Rodney healthy. So if Rodney's healthy, I think those two are going to look pretty nice together with two veteran corners. So hopefully everybody just gets healthy and gets to start playing together a little bit. That would be really great if they could do that.
Yeah, it was an indictment against last year. Jim Schwartz always said his safety was one of the toughest positions to play in that defense. Now, since it's a little bit more simplified, and Gannon, a former defensive back himself, is keeping that in mind, I think he's going to let these guys play their way a little bit more and play a little bit more freer. So that's only going to help them as well.
Now, last but not least, and I'm not going to make this the last thing we freaking talk about. You can mention something if you want, but I mean, Sippos are we comfortable with him just back there? I mean, he's our holder now too. So we're putting a lot on a guy that's never played an NFL game.
From what I've seen, it's been very limited from what I've seen of him punting. He got I think I watched maybe about 5 or 6 punts. He had a lot of hang time, and the way that ball was moving in the air, it had a weird spin, that Aussie spin that seems like in the air. It's not easy to pick up. Like if you're returners, it floats. It's almost like a knuckleball for football. So I've seen that. The mechanics so far, just based off what I've seen when it comes to the snap from Laval, the hold from Sippos, and the kick from Elliott, the mechanics look fine. I mean, granted, there's not that much other things that the specialists can do. I mean, They're kicking the soccer ball ahead before practice. I mean, to get things going, but a lot of times they're all spending their time together, and that's pretty much they practice that before they go to their own individual things. So I think that it looks like they're going to willing to give this guy a shot. Will they pick up a guy off the waiver wire? I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at some of the other preseason games that are going on, teams that have 2 punters, see if they release one. They go from there. The veterans that are out there, I think Thomas Morris, I don't know if he's still out there, but used to be the Saints punter. I'm not too keen on him, but if in a pinch you need somebody to at least competent to do that. I will say this. I did see Sippos kick one punt that he was able to call from corner within the 5. Now I was like, all right, cool. That was a nice bad thing. Now, can he do it like Cam Johnson, do it consistently?
Yeah.
Yet to be seen.
That's the question. And I think, obviously a lot of people don't look into that, but special teams is important. So we're a little worried. But speaking of special teams, we've got new coaches everywhere. It's not just offense, defense. Just quickly before we get out of here, man, what are your overall thoughts on, you talk about this, we have accountability now, something we've been lacking. Energy. These guys just seem like they're bringing something different, something that Philadelphia needs, I think. I would just love to hear your thoughts on what you've seen from these practices and these coaches in those practices.
I wonder if they have a Red Bull machine inside that in that complex, because these guys were like seeing them bounce around and getting in the face. They seem a little energetic when it comes there. But they got so far, and there hasn't been losses. There hasn't been sustained series of losses. So far, it looks like the veterans and the rookies have no choice, basically, because you're welcome to the NFL. But it looks like the veterans have bought in so far and are taken to the coaching and basically go on with the program. So go with the program. Will it be successful in the long run? That still has remained to be seen. I like their philosophy on letting the players play and not trying to get too detailed X's and O's. You can't go out there with You can't go out there with the old wing T. Even though as much I love the wing T, you can't just go, okay, everybody knows what's coming around. Fake the fullback, give to the halfback, and go that way. So everybody knows that. You can't be that simplified. But you want to make a NFL offense that's simple enough to allow a lot of, on side, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that has a lot of young players still trying to learn their way. You want to let them just use their athleticism because they have speed on both sides of the ball. They have speed on both sides of the ball. They just have to find ways to get the most out of the players while coming up with something that can be successful schematically. As for the culture, the accountability thing has been hit. Long details has been hammered home. I really wish he had a jar for coins for how many times you hear details, but that's something they really, really, really want to hammer home. And you can see the point. You can see their point once in a while, but the key is going to be where this team stands in the middle of the year, and if the veterans still buy in and still are along for the ride when it comes to the way they're coaching.
I love it, man. And it seems like they're already. It's been a short amount of time, so it's hard to gauge. But, you can definitely see some things, and your eyes are right there. So I love that you came on here and gave us all that info, man. I truly appreciate you taking the time, Chris.
Hey, man, Jimmy, man, it's always fun talking to you, man. It's good. It's good talking to your good people. So, hey, it's fun.
I appreciate that, man. Now I'm going to have to ask you again. And right before the season, I really want to hear because we're going to be cutting it down. We got preseason coming on.
Yes,
dude, the open practice this Sunday. I'm going to be there. If you're there, I will hopefully run into you, dude. I can't wait. It's coming, dude. It's something we've been trying to stay patient for. So I'm pretty excited. Any final thoughts before we get heading out, Chris?
I think the main thing to see is development. How these guys progress from week 1 to week 2. I think next week after the Steelers game, I think that's where you start to see a lot of these guys start to separate themselves. So you may see some people for the last time, but that and stop stealing for Randy Savage. The cream is going to start rising to the top, going from there. I don't have my little cream thing going that way, but I think you start seeing guys differentiate themselves from this week to next week. That's where you start to see some of these battles, people separate themselves.
Oh, yeah. That's the way you end it, Chris. I love it. You guys, check Chris's workout. He's a beat reporter for NJ.com. He covers the Eagles, the Sixers. You can find him at C. Franklin News over on Twitter. You find him all over the place. Check out what he's doing. Really got some great in-depth insight on the training camp going on so far. They have off tomorrow, so you got the day off. That's nice. You'll be back Saturday, so... there's no days off.
What's that?
There's no days off. As soon as I said it, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not real. We all know that. Chris, dude, I want to thank you one last time. I look forward to the next time we have you on. You stay safe out there, man. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. You guys all stay safe. Reach out if you need anything. I love you all. Have a great day. And as always, go Birds!